Jamal Shofani,
You got it.
Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu Black Belt, Wells Fargo District Manager,
Yeah, for sure.
former Marine.
That's right.
Thanks for coming on the show.
I appreciate you having me. It's exciting to be here. It was worth the drive from Redondo Beach. I was excited to come down and thought about it all night, and since we've talked, so thank you.
Nice. So where are you from?
So I was born in the Middle East, Jordan.
Jordan.
Yeah.
Okay, I've been there.
Yeah, have you?
Yeah.
Very cool.
Went to Petra.
Did you really? So we left Jordan back in 1978. So I got to the States. It's 6. My father, when he left Jordan, he was 55.
Wow.
So when most people are thinking about retirement, my father brought 4 young kids for a better life.
Wow.
And he was 20 years older than my mom. So he's passed away since then, 2012. Lived a great life and helped us accomplish where we are today. So it's been pretty cool.
American dream.
It is. It's you learn a lot from your parents, especially their work ethic and their love for their children, and you hope that you can pass that on to your kids. And it's been great. I think one of the best decisions he's ever made to bring us to this country, and we're living the dream today.
How old were you when he came over?
6.
6.
Yeah, 48 this past October.
Okay.
It's been quite a journey.
6 years old.
Yeah.
And you were the youngest? You were the...
No, I was the second oldest. So I have 2 younger
oldest.
sisters.
Okay.
Yeah, they're in their 40s now, and I have an older brother who's a former Marine as well, 25 years served, and my sisters are in their 40s, and my brother's 51.
Nice. Yeah. Nice. So you guys grew up where?
We all grew up in the South Bay. So
South Bay,
initially
okay.
we moved to Lawndale, and then Hawthorne, and then when I got married, I moved to Redondo. So it's 20 years plus now with Summer, my wife. Yeah, it's been great.
22 years?
20 years.
20 years, wow.
Yeah, we've known each other for 22. I mean, we met, and I know the date, so she loves this, August 30th, 1997, so it was pretty cool.
August 30th?
1997, yeah.
1997.
That's when we met. First conversation we ever had.
I think I met my wife, I think the same date.
No way. The same year?
No, not the same year. It was like 2 years later.
Yeah.
Because there was a Hicks and Gracie tournament.
Okay.
And so that's why I remember, and I have like the medal and stuff. And
Yeah,
so
yeah.
It was like the night before the tournament.
It's crazy how that date resonates. You think about it, like, when was my first conversation with my wife? And every time I share that with people, they're like, you still remember that day? Absolutely. Among other things, of course,
Yeah.
And then married 2 years later.
Wow.
Yeah, May of 99.
How many kids?
We've got 4 lovely kids, 3 girls and a boy, 8, 15, 17, and 18.
But the boy's the youngest?
No, the boy's the 17-year-old.
Oh, so he's the
second oldest.
second
yeah.
oldest. Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
And the oldest is Jenna. So that's our oldest. And then we have Emil, we have Juliana, and then we have Isabella, who is it's interesting. She was born the year I was diagnosed with a hip issue, which was crazy. And
You had a hip replacement.
I had a hip replacement, yeah. So
We were talking about it earlier.
yeah, we were. So I started jiu-jitsu a month before I turned 40. And 6 months into training, I went and visited an ortho, and I said, hey, I've got some back problems. And he tested my hips, wanted to look at my back. He said, I don't think you have a back issue. I think you have a hip issue. And I said, why do you say that? Well, I've had 2 hip replacements, and I had the same symptoms. And so let's do an MRI. He calls me. He says, look, we've got to do surgery. I can go in there, scope it, shave off the bone. You have hip dysplasia, which is an impingement on the hip socket. I said, I just started. I'm okay with surgery for now. And I held off for about 8 years. And finally, I just had to pull the trigger. I was bone on bone. And I just pulled the trigger.
They're going to be going on the bone on bone things.
Yeah.
Just that term bone on bone.
Yeah, it's
that the doctors say.
Yeah, you're like walking and you're
but it's I don't know. I don't really
You don't believe that?
I don't believe that, no.
I had no cartilage in between.
Sure, yeah, but it's like just that bone on bone, like you're like, oh my God, but yeah.
It was
not
painful.
a doctor, okay, but
no, it was painful. And so I just
that's it.
I pulled the trigger and had
Sure.
hip replacement back in May of 2017 but got back to training real quick.
That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, your body adapted.
For sure.
That's
It's amazing
great.
what the
That's
body
great.
can adapt to.
That's great. So how did you get into banking?
It's an interesting story. I was in the military. I was
Right.
going to school.
Okay.
I walked into a bank. I had a GI Bill check. And I said, hey, are you hiring? And the teller at the time said, I'm quitting. Would you like my job?
When you went into the bank?
When I went into the bank to cash my check. And Sure enough, I filled out an application. So the next day I was persistent. The next day I said, hey, I'm just interested to see if you got my application. I said, when did you complete it? I said, yesterday. I'm like, well, just give us a couple of days. Got into banking. They hired me. Listen to the date that they hired me. August 30th, 1994. So August 30th, I get into banking. 3 years later, I meet my wife. And I've been in the industry since then, 25 years as a teller.
You started as a teller.
Started as a teller, part-time
like
teller.
Argish, like more,
Yeah, for sure. Part-time teller, going to school in the military.
You were still in the military?
I was still in the military, yeah. I joined the military in 1989, right out of high school, at the age of 18.
You think it was because that guy said, hey, I'm quitting. You should... What did he say?
She said, I'm quitting. Would you like my job?
Yeah.
and it's funny because I was a speech communication major in college, and I'm thinking, entertainment might be the place I want to go. I might be a disc jockey, Ryan Seacrest at the time, but
sure.
Hey, life has a funny way of giving you a path. And, here I am 25 years later, and grew up in the ranks of the industry and had some great people that I worked for and enjoyed working for and helped me along the way. And I'm hoping to do the same thing as, I continue on this path.
What bank did you work for first?
Great Western.
Great Western.
Yeah.
Are they still around?
No, they were acquired by Washington Mutual.
Washington Mutual,
back in the day, yeah. And so I worked with Great Western, Washington Mutual till 2006, and then I was courted by Wells and left in August of 2006. Again, August. I don't know what it is with August, and joined Wells.
Lucky month, huh?
It is a lucky month. That's the month my wife was born. By the way.
So the fact that you were courted by Wells Fargo in August, you're like, okay, you guys are cool.
Yeah, it's good.
Things happen.
It's August 21st. Let's go. And so it's a great month It's been a great month. Based on what I'm sharing. I'm like, all right, a lot of things happen in August. It's been pretty cool.
So you were in the Marines. How did that happen? Your brother was in the Marines. Your older brother, right?
My older brother, yeah. Mm-hmm. So my brother joined. He was a high school graduate, 1985. He joined in 1986, right out of high school. And so, as any student, you're getting recruited all the time. Back then, recruiters can walk into school. It wasn't career day. They can just walk on campus and recruit. And I was pretty resistant to the fact or to the idea of joining the Marine Corps. And so, and my mom, Middle Eastern woman, very scared of what might happen in the future, war, you name it. She had all these premonitions that stuff might happen.
You're in Jordan. You guys are born in Jordan, right? But
yeah.
You're Palestinian?
Palestinian, yeah. So I joined right at 1989. I decided, you know what? Right out of high school, I'm going to join. I didn't know what I wanted to do. And so at the age of 18, because my mom wouldn't sign the contract, I signed and left to boot camp in December of 1989. And did my training. And then
89, wow.
Yeah, long time ago, 30 years plus.
The 80s.
The 80s. It's funny on the way
You're
down.
like Benjamin Button, man.
Hey, thank God, man. If that's, we'll talk about what's done that for me in a bit. But yeah, it's been great. 1989. Been out of high school for 30 years. It's amazing. So I was at a branch a couple of weeks ago, and I was telling someone I joined banking in 1994, and they said, "Oh man, I don't think I was born then." I'm like,
yeah, exactly.
It happens, I guess. I dated myself, but it's perfectly fine. So, Marine Corps, 1989, got out in 1997.
So 87, 8 years.
8 years, yeah. So in 1997, you do. So I joined the reserves.
Okay.
With the intention of going to school. Right after boot camp, what they call MOS, or my job training, my specialty, I got into Cal State Long Beach. And then sure enough, a war breaks out, the first Gulf War. And during that period, they activated the majority of the reservists. So I got pulled out of school for a little bit and was on active duty for a year. Did my stint on active duty, and then went back to school and finished.
Did you go to Iraq? Or?
I did not. I did not go to Iraq. I was stationed stateside at Camp Pendleton. My brother was deployed overseas since he was a grunt field guy, and I stayed stateside. And as soon as ceasefire was called back in February of 1992, I believe, maybe sooner, I went back to Cal State Long Beach, and didn't know what degree I wanted to get. I was unsure. I took all these different classes you petition in. I got into political science upper division class. I was lost. Didn't know what the hell was going on. And then And then I went into this class called Rhetorical Theory.
Rhetorical theory.
Yeah, it was a speech communication class, and the dean was teaching it. And I was trying to get away from something where I didn't have to speak a lot or write a lot. I knew speech communication would put me in front of an audience. And I loved it, never looked back. So, and I ended up writing a ton of papers as a speech communication major. And I graduated in 1995 from Cal State Long Beach.
Cal State Long Beach. Okay.
Yeah, I was a Cal State Long Beach guy, 49er.
Okay. Yeah, they have the Jiu-Jitsu World Championships there, right?
They do at the Pyramid.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
My wife went to college there as well.
Yeah, she's a 49er then.
49er,
Good for her. Yeah, 49er. Yeah. So
nice.
Great stint at Cal State Long Beach. Enjoyed my time there, and then still was in banking. And I hadn't discovered jiu-jitsu yet. I was a weightlifter.
Okay.
Big dude, weighed 220. You know, I was like, I loved the idea of being able to bench 4 plates, lifting heavy, and still in the military reserves. And then finally my contract ended
in your
20s,
your 30s, early 30s?
Yeah, I graduated from
lifting heavy.
Your joints, you know, you don't realize how much of an impact you have on your joints when you're in your 20s. And so I graduated from college at the age of 24.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
It's pretty cool.
Nice. And you started jiu-jitsu when you were 40.
Yeah, the month before I turned 40. I remember it was September. And my kids had always trained.
Jiu-jitsu?
Jiu-jitsu, yeah.
Okay.
Younger, they trained at a place called Elite.
Elite.
Elite MMA, owned by a Krav Maga guy.
Right. I think I saw them, in that area. I've been there before.
Yeah, and so they got affiliated because a lot of our football friends, my son played football, and they said, hey, have your son try Jiu-Jitsu, Muay Thai. You never know, you might like it. Son loved it. My daughter got into it, got into Jiu-Jitsu and Muay Thai. And then one night, my friends go, hey, you know what? You should come try Jiu-Jitsu. I'm like, sure, I'm a big guy. I think I can handle myself. And that was wishful thinking. So I get on the mat with this white belt, but he was a purple belt in judo. And he threw me around like a rag doll. I was getting mounted, side control, you name it. And I loved it. Never looked back. I was shivering afterwards. I mean,
this is your 40.
This is 39, 40 years old.
Sure,
Yeah.
Sure.
A month before. And I was like, I got to do this. I have to get into jiu-jitsu, and I signed up right away.
Keeps it real, huh?
Keeps it real, yeah. It puts things in perspective. And
what really matters? What is strength, right? What is
strength
really?
You use your body in so many different ways. And when I got into jiu-jitsu, I was weighing 181, and I competed medium heavy, or middleweight, excuse me. And so
173.
Yeah,
like that.
yeah. So with gi, and then I did majority of my training. The first, I would say, 6 years was gi. And so they said either love it or you hate it. I loved it. I didn't look back, and I've been training ever since then.
What you said, jiu-jitsu changed your life?
Yeah. Physically, mentally, the camaraderie that you build. I mean, you.
So where did you start training jiu-jitsu? What place?
It was
that elite MMA. You did your first class.
Yeah, it was Ahiva Machado at the time. So Ricardo Ahiva Bene owned it, and it was an affiliate of Higan Machado.
Okay.
And so
the Machados have been there for forever in the South Bay. Yeah.
Absolutely.
I used to visit Higan Machado's gym in the 90s.
Back in Torrance.
Torrance, yeah. Torrance, I think, was in Redondo as well.
For sure.
In South Bay, right?
That's where they were. They were on 190th. And
that was like the original jiu-jitsu spot in America, South Bay.
And I didn't know that. And so the first UFC fight I ever saw was Tank Abbott fighting. And I'm like, all right, what is this thing? And I didn't get into it until till the late 2000s. And so I get into jiu-jitsu, changes your life physically. I felt like I could do so many different things. And then the calmness that it created, the confidence, whether I was at home, at work, or in jiu-jitsu, it changed the dynamics of the conversation quite a bit. I felt more comfortable with myself. I felt like I can do things not only in jiu-jitsu class, at work with a composed mind and discipline, structure. And needless to say, the camaraderie was great because I think I was missing that from the military. I had such a close-knit group in the military.
Right. Okay.
As a Marine, and then you get into corporate culture, and it's completely different. There's somewhat of that camaraderie, but it's not as extensive as it is in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, as you can imagine.
Right. We can live in a city with 10 million people, but we're disconnected from everybody, right?
For sure. Sometimes it's your own neighbor.
Yeah.
You don't even know their name.
But in jiu-jitsu, when somebody's trying to choke you, it seems to be good for you, right?
It's funny the lessons that teaches you.
Right.
It's funny how
there's a trust, right? There's a trust that has to be there.
You know that there's no ill intent. You'll learn how to defend yourself. You learn to stay calm. And those are important variables in life to begin with. It's just not on the mat. It's what you apply in the real world.
A lot of people that have a military background or martial arts, right? Like a lot of people say that success, right? That breeds success. Either one or the other, but you have both.
Yeah, military gives you that discipline, that structure, that leadership. Mm-hmm. Those are the attributes that you take wherever you go, and the tenacity, the willingness to go on regardless of the setback. And I think a lot of people today, for me, regardless of the setback I'm facing, I have to push forward. And you can apply that to any craft, quite frankly. And I've had many setbacks in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, many injuries. I've had a torn bicep. I've had the hip replacement, a torn labrum. I've had a C6, C7 herniated disc. And I knew that at some point that I'd have to keep pushing, but I knew how to manage my body. With Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, as you get older, you have to manage your body much better. Recovery is extremely important. Right. I wasn't in my mid-20s anymore where I can go train for 9 hours and come back the next day. I had to manage it much better today than I've ever had to.
What kind of things have you done to recover?
I'll tell you, so stretching for me is extremely important. The right food is extremely important. The diet. Lifting weights. The right type of lifting weights. Right. High intensity. Exactly. So I'm not out there trying to lift a ton, but
People think it's just releasing tension is the only, but you also have to activate and get reconnected again.
Yeah, totally. Because Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu,
lifting weights and stuff.
Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu builds certain types of strengths. Weights complement that, and a lot of time in the sauna just to help my body relax and stretch. Good sleep. I get at least 6 to 8 hours of sleep. And I got to shout out to my wife. I mean, my wife and my kids give me the space to do that. I take 1 day off a week from working out, and that's Thursday.
How old does he look, Enrique? You already know his age.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah. So I got it.
You could be younger, man. The way you're moving around, you're talking. You could be.
I feel
in your
like
early 30s. I think.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I feel like I can, and that's the difference. I think.
Benjamin Button.
It's happening. My father had great genes. My father had great genes. Yeah, it does. It truly does, and. I get that quite a bit. So thank you for that. I appreciate it. It makes me feel good. So I know, okay, I'm doing all the right things. I'm eating right. I'm sleeping right. I'm training right.
Yeah, that's about the quality of life, right?
It does. And, look, as I said earlier.
The jiu-jitsu probably gave you the right mindset. So you don't get you, or, also, of course, your military background, but the jiu-jitsu gives you the right mindset to not get so stressed out about like the little things, right?
It's an outlet. It's great to be able to connect. And what I've learned over the years in training Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, not only am I learning to get better as a black belt, because that's a new journey you embark on. Just because you become a black belt, it's not done. It's a continuous journey, and that's what we're trying to teach the students today. It's like I'm learning from you as much as you are learning from me. There are those opportunities that I can pay back, but it's bilateral. I'm not just learning. You're not just learning from me. There's so many things that I'm learning watching you train as well as when we're training together.
What was your toughest, I'm going to go back to your childhood. What was your toughest, I guess, moving over as an immigrant family? What was your toughest, one of your memory at that time?
I'll tell you, so in the mid-'80s.
Mid-'80s?
Yeah, Iran-Contra hearing. That was, during that period, that was a tough period for us. I remember I was in middle school, 7th grade, if I'm not mistaken, and at the time, everybody was stereotyped. So if you were Palestinian, if you're Egyptian, you were stereotyped as Persian or from Iran. And there was such animosity, such hatred at the time because of what was going on with the hostages. I remember leaving school and our van was rocked. Students were throwing rocks at our van. It was unbelievable. Wow. And that memory resonates for me and will continue to resonate with me for the rest of my life.
What did your parents, how did they react? What did they tell you?
Stay calm, stay collected. It's not about us. It's about what's going on in this country right now. And you do what you need to do to stay focused and committed to your schooling, and don't instigate. don't react.
It's not about us.
And it'll boil over. It's not about us right now. And that was an important lesson. And so that was one of the toughest memories I remember. Look, I coming to the States at the age of 6 and you having to work at the age of 7 at the swap meet. That's where my dad started his career. He's like, he had to work at the swap meet to feed his kids. So, you know,
swap meet.
Yeah, open air market.
On the beach.
No, it was actually in an open air market at the Rhodium at the time, back out in Redondo Beach.
Okay.
And so my father sold clothes, Dickies back in the day, Levi's, Jordache jeans, Sergio Valente, and he needed his kids to work. We would all be packed up in a van, and he would wait at 4:30 in the morning and get a spot so he can sell clothes. And I was working with him at the age of 6, 7 years old, and then until I was able to get a job at the various places, I stopped working at the swap meet. But it taught me a lot. I tell you, as I stated earlier, my father instilled a strong work ethic. You know, no matter what you do in life, you've got to make sure that you're providing for family. That's number one. Your family's number one. I've got multiple families. My immediate family takes precedence over everything. I've got my military family. I'll always appreciate what they've taught me. My Wells Fargo family, and my Jiu-Jitsu family. Those are the folks that I've stayed connected with and have helped me and molded me to the man that I am today.
You think it's important to stay connected?
Oh, absolutely.
To your roots?
You definitely do.
That have made you who you are?
You know,
and why?
Culturally, it's extremely important to stay connected because you don't want to lose sight of the traditions, the culture. Things have evolved since we've come to the States. Our culture has changed. Some of our traditions still remain the same, but the evolution of parenting has changed. My dad was very strict. My mom was very strict as well and continues to be. You've got to give some latitude. Yeah. There's a different way to have conversations today. My dad conversed in absolutes. This is the way it was, and that was it.
Right.
I understand that, and I appreciate that, and I recognize it. I can't do that today. I've got to have a different conversation with my kids as they grow up in this country.
You want to get through.
Absolutely.
And be effective. Get them to do what you want them to do.
Yeah, and you've got to be able to listen to them. They want you to listen. They're so influenced by so many things today, social media being one of them. You've got to be the greater influence. Am I perfect at what I do? No. I mean, it's OJT, it's on the job training. I don't think you can ever perfect parenting. You learn from your experiences and you get better.
Let's go to what was the toughest memory, I guess, in the military?
Oh, wow. Being away from home. It was Christmas. And 2 memories I'll share with you. That was the toughest boot camp. My sister had written...
You were away for boot camp?
Yeah, 3 months. And I'd never been away from home. My father didn't believe in that. You stayed at home until you got married.
Right.
That's how it was.
Yeah.
And so I left, and my sister wrote me this letter and just broke my heart. I mean, it was loving, and she sent me a box of goodies. That was my first tough experience. My second one was when we got activated. It was during the first Gulf War, and I got activated from the reserves. My brother had already been deployed overseas. My father dropped me off to Camp Pendleton. And I know there was no ill intent by this comment. He was just heartbroken. He says, "How could you and your brother do this to me?" And it just crushed me. It just crushed me. And I didn't, it was not intended. It's like my mom had this premonition, there's going to be a war. And sure enough,
real, huh?
It was real. And by the grace of God, I didn't get sent overseas. But you know, that tore me apart, that comment. I was like, oh my God, what have I done? And I never wanted to make him feel bad or disappoint him. But what are you going to do? That's the path that's been laid out for you, and you just have to own it. You own it, and you move on, and you hope for the best, and you pray for the best. Those were the 2 toughest military memories that resonate with me till today.
Both family things.
Both family, yeah. I'm a huge family guy. I love my family. I'd do anything for my kids and my wife and my immediate family, my siblings.
Your dad was like, how could you do that to me?
Yeah, that was a tough one. And I walked away thinking, what did we do? You know, my brother and I. And so
what made him go into the military?
My brother?
Yeah.
He's always wanted. He wanted to get away. He just wanted to do something different. being brought up. So my dad was a military guy.
Okay.
Born in the early 20s, 25 years, World War II vet. He was an instructor and with the Jordanian army. He was very strict. When I say strict, I mean to the T. And so we grew up in a strict environment. You couldn't date. You couldn't stay past out a certain time. You had to work with him. All, in hindsight, all good things could have been approached differently. So
but he ingrained those values.
Oh, for sure. And so my brother needed a different outlet. So he joined, and my mom said, "Don't you dare join." I'm like, "No, I'm good, Mom. I'm good." And sure enough, something flipped with me, as I'm getting out of high school. And so he joined, and then shortly after I graduated, I was a Marine.
What made you flip? What was the reason?
I didn't know if I wanted to go to school right away.
Okay.
I was, all right, I've been doing this school thing now for 12 plus years, and I have no motivation to go to school. If I joined the military, who knows, it might change my perception of things. And that was the turning point. I'm going to try it. My brother did it. I'm going to do it. What's the worst that can happen? And so one of the other best decisions I've ever made. I'll never have any regrets about joining the Marine Corps. Never. And if my son today said, "Hey, Dad, I want to join the military," if that's the decision you want to make and you want to do it, by all means, let's make it happen. Let me support you on that path. And that's one of the things I'm passionate about today. As a veteran, it's important for me to give back to veterans, to be available for veterans. Transitioning as a veteran in today's environment from military life to civilian life, it's such a difficult path sometimes. Whenever there's an opportunity for me to share back what I've gone through, my experiences, I'm there. It's because it's such a passion of mine, among many things.
Cool. And I mean, Jiu-Jitsu can help, right, with all the veterans.
Oh, yeah. Jiu-Jitsu is, PTSD. Remember we talked about outlets,
right.
Having that camaraderie, and that's the biggest transition. Is you transition from the military, you have such a close-knit group, to now corporate life, and everybody a lot of times works in their silos. And so you need that connection. And that's what's great about Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. You meet a lot of military folks. I've trained with SEALs that are Jiu-Jitsu guys, Marines, guys from the Army. You connect with them, and they realize what they've been missing for so long.
Yeah, we need that human connection to stay healthy.
Yeah.
Yeah, where they say
physically.
the five things for the brain, like we need, right? Of course, like food, air, food. What is it? Like a challenge.
Yeah.
Right. What's the other one? I mean, one of the things is love, right? Like connection with others.
Human connection.
Human connection.
Yeah.
Going blank now, but challenge. I'll remember later.
It's all good. Yeah, I think it stimulates the mind, that human connection. You need that stimulation.
Yeah.
You always do, regardless of, who you are. If you don't have that human connection, it makes it very difficult to be in an environment where you're comfortable.
Food, challenge, newness. Of course, like love. There's one more that I'm trying to remember.
Yeah, you talk about newness. You like renewing things.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, I think Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu was that for me. It was a renewed outlook on things. I was like, wow.
Because you probably it gets pretty monotonous, right? Maybe at work or just different things in life.
You need something novel. You need something unpredictable. And I found that to be in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. In my first competition, my coach was like, "You got to go compete. Go try it out." 6 months into